ku ntikko ffenna tubenga tumanye ekyokukola kuba pulezidenti gali mu state house si abeera akulembera abeera n'abakulembeze ab'enjawulo kati kino kitulaga nti ffe tuli ready okuddukanya gavumenti twagala okusobooza abalala nammwe mujje musome tulabe nga eggwanga ligenda maaso. Congratulations again. Kama wange omwongere engalo ez'amaanyi naffe aba media tuli basanyufu nti kuntiko ffenna tubenga tumanye ekyokukola kuba pulezidenti gali mu state house si abeera akulembera abeera n'abakulembeze ab'enjawulo kati kino kitulaga nti ffe tuli ready okuddukanya gavumenti twagala okusobooza abalala nammwe mujje musome tulabe nga eggwanga ligenda maaso. Congratulations again. Kama wange omwongere engalo ez'amaanyi naffe aba media tuli basanyufu ntangala nekyakira buli omu ate omusubbaawa tegulina kyegufiirwa nga gukozeseddwa okukoleeza ku musubbaawa omulala. Muli misubbaawa basebo ne bannyabo mugende mukulanye emisubbaawa emirala ensi eyake ffenna twake tufune ekitangala omugigi gwaffe gusobole okuyamba omugigi gwaffe gwennyini n'emigigi gyonna eginandako. Mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala kwewaayo mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala ate mufuuke bakulembeze. Not even the sky is the limit. Mukama abampe nnyo omukisa mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala n'obugambo obwo ssebo Dr. Spire.
Nevertheless, I'm really honored. I want to first thank you before I go into the main, the gist of my invitation. I thank you, many of you, for standing with us when I lost my brother a few days ago. Yeah, many of you are there with us. You've sent us messages. I've not read many of the messages because they were overwhelming. You sent messages, condolences, some of you called. Yeah, we really don't take that for granted. Yeah, I thank you so much for that. And in that line, Saba Ntwalo Mukisa Era, to request you that we stand up for a moment of silence in honor of my fallen brother, Dr. John Bosco Chigundu Spire. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you. Here, on a number of occasions, the leaders have reached out to me, sometimes encouraging me, please visit us. Could we have a talk? A few years ago, I held a comedy show, and I was surprised to see the entire crew of Honorable Chagulanyi. Yes, even Nubian Lee was there with his small voice. I saw him in the audience. Yes, and Eddie Mutwe, the Secretary General as well. I was really surprised because I never invited any politician, especially I wouldn't invite them because I wanted the show to go on. So I don't know whether their intention was to sabotage the show by their presence. Yeah, but it means a lot if one can just randomly show up, and they showed up in such a number. I'm impressed by people who are humble. I'm impressed by people who do not try to show that they are high up there, but who can calm down, regardless of the positions they might hold or their qualifications. And I've seen this on a number of occasions, your leaders going to places where you wouldn't expect them to be. So that being with me, that being with us in grieving, but also on other occasions where it was really surprising for them to be there. I don't take it for granted. I remember even the time I was quarantined, again, Honorable Chagulanyi called me, and he's one of those that try to encourage me to go through that difficult time. So therefore, despite my current circumstances, I changed my mind and accepted to be here today. A friend I told about coming here asked me, "Are you sure you want to go there? Are you sure you want to be kidnapped while still grieving?" I told him that the kidnappers are human, they can't do that. Yes, and sometimes they are too stupid, they could take that for a compliment. The second reason why I accepted is because I believe that my relevance as an academic is primarily in being able to share the knowledge I have been privileged to acquire with my people that might need it. My titles mean little or nothing if I'm irrelevant to my community. We who want to consider ourselves to be highly educated have on so many occasions dismissed those who are trying to change what is not going right in this country. We have said that they lack knowledge. We said they are not well groomed. We have said they are unwashed. We have said they are still raw. In one of the speeches, I think the representatives of the group, yes, she said, "You went to the training when you were," did you mean raw or low? Oh, when you were raw. And now the president whispered to me that now you're low, L-A-W. Yes, so they said that some of you were raw and dismissed you on that account. Yet whenever we are invited to rise to the occasion, we shy away with excuses. I have chosen to respect whoever tries to do what needs to be done, even if they may not be perfect, even if they may be imperfect. After all, we are all imperfect. Era Abaganda tugamba nti akanyuga lyali nalyo, n'olwekyo mbasaamu ekitiibwa olw'okukanyuga lye muli nalyo, wadde abamu bagamba nti ttono, oba wadde abamu bagamba nti mukutte ekifunfugu. I will certainly critique them, but in the spirit of improving, not destroying. That is the second reason why I accepted to come. I'm not here because you're perfect. No one is. I'm not here because I agree with everything you do. I'm not here because I think you have the best credentials. I'm here because, unlike many of us, you chose not. Despite of the pictures on those walls of your comrades who have died in the struggle, despite of your colleagues being locked away in this beautiful country's jails without any fair trial, despite frequent threats of crushing you for no good reason, despite the everyday risk of being rounded up and driven away for torture, despite temptations of big monies being thrown at you, you people still stand by what you believe. I respect that. Yes, it is indeed surprising that with all that has happened at this place, you can still come here and find people seated here. you would only expect a fool to sit in such a place. Because for some, even just passing there, they have to run. Because this is a dangerous place. It's like what we used to hear about Bermuda Triangle. So for you to choose to still stay in a place that is that risky to be, especially where the risk is not for having broken any law, but for standing by a certain cause. I really respect that. Whether I agree with it or not, I still respect it. And especially because we don't have many people today who are willing to take such a stance. The third reason I'm here is because of your constant efforts at making yourselves better. You have challenged many of us at individual level, we who consider ourselves to be more worthy. You have challenged all the political parties and seasoned politicians. Of course, it's not to say or to despise them. They are doing some of them are doing wonderful things. But I think it's a challenge for the few years you've been around to do what you've been able to do. We may publicly bash you, but we privately ask ourselves, aba bavubuka bakikola batya? You have responded to dismissal by proving your capacity to grow and transform, as the president said. We said you're not educated, which was not entirely true because many of you are really educated and even highly educated. But when we say that you're not educated, many of you went back to school. We said you were bayaye, hooligans. Although I think many of you might have believed, like I do, that there is nothing wrong with carrying dreadlocks. You painfully cut them off to fit into the public's idea of a decent person. After all, and this reminds me of a song by Morgan Heritage. You don't, yes, right. You don't have to dread to be Rasta. You don't have to dread to be Rasta. Yes, it's not a dreadlocks thing, it's a divine conception of the heart. Nubian, I expected to hear a small voice behind. I don't know why. For the many years I've been hearing your collabos with now Bobby Wine, I don't know why you choose to always sing the small voice and he sings the big one. Yes, but the point I'm trying to make heart what one has in their mind. You chose to cut them off to fit into the public narrative for the sake of what you believed needed to be done. You set up a leadership school whose fruits we are celebrating today, something that was unprecedented. We wondered what the curriculum was, and it has been asked many times. I heard you mention some of the things you studied, but many people have been asking, what is that school teaching and who are the lecturers? I've been able to see some of them here today. Yes, but that's no mean achievement, and beyond it being an achievement, it also shows the zeal to learn and understanding that we are not going to keep ourselves in a particular position. We need to inform ourselves in order to do what we have to do. Someone said that, I forget the name, that if he was given a task of cutting down a tree and he was given 4 hours, he would spend the first 3 hours sharpening the axe and maybe 1 hour to cut the tree. You have been sharpening your axe because there was a provision that was set according to the vision, which I really commend. Earlier this year, you invited me to speak to your trainees It was my first time to visit your facilities. One thing that struck me was how the trainees listened very attentively and with very high discipline for over 3 hours. For over 3 hours, I overstayed my welcome. I was invited to speak for 1 hour, I ended up speaking for 3. But they stayed there listening attentively. And the discipline with which they took instruction from the director, Miss Doreen Kaija, it was really amazing. At the time I visited the school, it had just been violently raided by security and most equipment had been confiscated. I asked if there was a projector that I could use for my presentation. And Doreen responded, "We don't have, everything was taken." But when I entered the room, I found it packed with people waiting for me. I asked them, "You people, how are you able to still gather in this place, yet you know you can be rounded up anytime?" They simply laughed. I found that commitment and the desire to learn quite impressive. The fourth reason why I'm here, now when I'm giving the reasons, it sounds like I'm singing UB40's song. Which song is that? Even Doctor is also into the thing. Yes, reasons why I love you 1, reasons why I love you 2. Now I'm on the fourth reason. This is a selfish one. I'm here to distract myself from the pain of losing my brother and to use this occasion to make reflections on life, purpose, and resilience, which could speak to your life experiences and aspirations. When John died, almost everything I have been doing lost meaning. Kati abakamera balinze nkaabe sigenda kaaba. Mwagala mukwata akafaananyi mukagyeyo nga wayise emyaka ng'akapasita Bugingo mukatambuze. Sigenda kaaba wadde enkovu zinnuma. So when John died, almost everything I've been doing lost meaning. I keep asking myself, what for? What is life all? Or even continue to live? So many questions, very few clear answers. I will only expand on one here. The question of why we are here on earth is a difficult one to answer. Ensonga lwaki tuli wano ku nsi ng'abantu nzibu nnyo okuzuula. From a religious angle, the answer comes easily, that we are here to worship God and do whatever He created us to do. I would focus more on the second purpose of doing what we were created for. On the purpose of worshiping God, I'm hesitant to believe that a perfect God would create us simply for the sake of singing His greatness. Only imperfect beings wish to be worshipped. I'm therefore more inclined to believe in worship through actions towards our fellow imperfect human beings and other animals. I don't so much believe in worship that is about only singing about God's greatness if that is not reflected in our actions. I think our actions mean much more than what we can sing. On the second purpose, how do we know what God created us for? Even the thief might argue that if we say that God knew us before we were born, then God knew that He would be a thief. Therefore, He is simply fulfilling God's plan. The torturer might make the same argument. Maybe that is why they often talk about torturing others and they mention Jesus in the same statement. Maybe that is why they would make public apologies, but without regretting or redressing any specific harm that they did to others. We would argue that perhaps the best way to tell if what we are doing or plan to do is what God created us for is to check if it is in line with what God encourages in the scriptures and what we consider to be God's nature. Can a good God create a person with the purpose of harming others? That would contradict God's nature as we know it. The other approach to understanding our purpose is by simply studying human nature in general and our particular uniqueness as individuals in our circumstances. When you keenly study human beings, you realize that there are two important elements that shape our key life choices. The two elements are happiness and pain. I consider those to be the most important aspects of human life, happiness and pain, and I will explain why. We are trying to maximize happiness for ourselves and to minimize pain or suffering. The reason you graduates chose to study is to maximize your happiness in some way and to minimize the pain that would come from not doing this course or the pain that would come from not being informed. The reason you go to hospital when you're sick is to minimize pain. The reason you seek for a well-paying job is to minimize happiness, rather to maximize happiness and minimize the pain of poverty or being broke. The reason you buy a car or build a house, the reason you produce children and take them to school is more or less the same. The reason why human beings at one point came up with the idea of having a government above them is so that it would help them to do things that they could not do individually. I don't think human beings set up governments as an end in themselves, as that a government was a good thing to be there just as a government. It was set in place to help them achieve things that they could not achieve individually as a way of maximizing happiness, especially to protect their lives, to protect their liberty, to safeguard it, and their property. People agreed to pay taxes for the sake of what they expected in return, therefore, and minimize pain. Not so that the powerful can maximize their happiness at the expense of the weak or subjects. The forms of government that survive on exploiting those under them have been tried in human history and found to be unsustainable. Even though some parts of the world still insist on them, they are not sustainable and they end up crashing, unfortunately, with so many people over time. We then realize that it is not enough for us to pursue what makes us happy and minimizes our individual pains without regard to the happiness and pain of others. The limit of your search for happiness is that point at which your happiness starts causing pain to others. This is where a sadist's view of happiness becomes problematic. A sadist is someone who gets happiness from the suffering of others. It is a mental disorder. You ever see someone celebrating the pain of others, and especially if they are not celebrating the pain of an oppressor, then that person has a mental disorder. Is a sadist, except, and I want to emphasize, except if the one whose suffering is being celebrated is the kind that causes pain to others. I'm one of those who believe that it's not a bad thing to celebrate the pain of an oppressor. And I saw people throwing that at me when I lost my brother. But the difference is, my brother was not an oppressor of anyone. I'm not an oppressor of anyone, or so I would want to believe. So celebrating his death can put a chain around the leg of a fellow man or a fellow woman without at last finding the other end of that chain fastened around his own neck. And it's partly why the oppressors live in fear. Much as they will chain others, that chain is also around their necks. It is not really a good thing to live in fear all the time. One of the reasons they would have high security, unnecessarily high security, is because they are afraid of what those they lead, which is a contradiction. Why should I fear people that I lead? Especially if I assume they love me. Knowing then that no one desires pain, and that often the pain we cause to others ultimately affects our happiness, we should all seek to pursue a life that aims at. I imagine that some of you are planning to stand in the forthcoming election, some of you graduates. I have already seen posters with all sorts of catchy slogans, some clearly deceptive. Do you really mean your slogans, or it is just a bait to catch voters? What is motivating you to stand for that position? What is motivating you to sell your property to raise funds for campaigns? Is it to maximize the happiness of those you seek to represent? Is that the reason why party cards are a do or die? Is that why people fight and treat each other as enemies in elections? Is it mainly about competition to serve? Are these people who are almost willing to kill each other simply competing to serve, that I would die in order to be the one to serve people? I think we need to reflect about that. What is the balance between personal interests? Thank you. What is the balance between personal interests and the interest to serve? While what some of those people don't know, that by doing that to people who are innocent, you end up emboldening those who are not even concerned. Because they also ask themselves, but how can one be this ruthless? So much as I might not be able to do what you do, but I really admire it. But the point I was trying to make was that all that is going to happen. Some of you might lose loved ones. Some of you will go to jail. I see you holding placards of colleagues, of your comrades who are now in jail, some of whom you don't know where they are. You knowingly chose this path. But it doesn't mean that you will know how to handle those things when they actually happen. But the masalawo okugoberera oluyiriri olwo naye sisuubira nti mumanyi how it will feel ebintu ebyo bwe biribeerawo. I don't think you know how it will feel. I have already lost my parents, but when my brother died, it hurt like something I had never experienced. Be there for each other. It is normal to get traumatized and depressed. Seek for counseling support. Care about your mental health. Mental health is very important. Sometimes what your oppressor does is to make you lose your mind. And once you lose it, they use it as a weapon against you. Yet you are so be mindful about your mental health, although it's not totally in your hands to choose. It is okay to take breaks once in a while and recollect yourself. Abalimizi endalo obwoko okukijjako munzijukiza nti mbe wano nga nkyayogera. Anyway, I was saying avoid petty fights.
Imagine if the people of Uganda entrust us with state resources, I think this country will be what? Good. Mr. President and members, I want to also, 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 Mr. recognize the facilitators. Dr. Spire has given a very, very philosophical message today. I hope we have all picked one or two things. But one of the things he talked about was talking about the people who teach at the school. And the people who teach at the School of Leadership are not paid also. They do voluntary work. Tetusasula bantu bano okusomesa okubawa amagezi ago gonna gemufuna kusomera eryo, so they need to be appreciated. Communication, where is Comrade Waiswa? There are 3 levels. There's level 1, level 2 and level 3. So this is level 1, and under level 1 we teach political and constitutional history of Uganda. Ebyafaayo bya Uganda babisoma era bano bakuguse mu byafaayo bya Uganda. Netusomesa the philosophy of the national unity platform. Philosophy nga tubasomesa values ekibiina kyaffe, structure y'ekibiina n'ebirala. Bano netubasomesa the art of public communication. Era Comrade Waiswa era abazze wano ne boogera mulabye nti bakuguse nnyo musomere erya art of public communication. We are very, very proud of those people who spoke on behalf of the teams. Baina esomo libaita pathways to political change. Elyo zibunyo sigenda alinyonyola ne mu Luganda. Then nebasoma leadership with action. Not just being a leader, but how do you impact lives and society. Then nebasoma governance and civil liberties. Bana abantu, Mr. President and our keynote speaker bakuguse mu nsonga y'okumanya eddembe lyabwe. Era bano tusaba kubanyigira mu ttooke kubanga bamanyi eddembe lyabwe we litandikira ne we likoma. So mbadde nkyali recognizinga ababasomeseza ne mbagamba nti public communication abadde abasomesa omuyi gwe bayita Alex Waiswa Mufumbiro n'ogatako Innocent Tegusulwa. Kitegeeza byabasomeseza mu bikutte nnyo. NUP philosophy abadde agibasomesa mulimu Sebufu John Mary, Comrade Sebufu John Mary may not be around. Omulala Yekeya Jeremiah. Omulala gwe bakazako erya Dosi. Mulaba wali Alex Rovans Lwanyaga. Sebo keynote speaker owulidde nti serious no Bojaleti, two of the best students, he was retained. Era police yaffe nti abayizi abakola obulungi ne basukuluma ku banaabwe tuba retaininga ate ne bayigiriza abalala. Kubanga enjogera yake tegamba bw'obuuka n'otabuusa oba tolina nsonga lwaki wakola ki? Bw'obuuka n'otakola ki? Oba tolina nsonga lwaki? Baddeyo mu Sigeto mu Kampala Central n'esaawa omwana n'akanjigirizaako. Kakati esomo we are monitoring classes ezo. Leadership with action, tubadde tulina Dr. Kanabi Moses, organizing secretary waffe. Ne tubeera n'omukulu Sserunjogi Charles Musoke. Ne tubeera ne Madam Sarah Muwonge Mukisa. Adagwe people power. Kakati kusonga eddembe ly'obuntu bawadde basomesebwa Sekanjako Abubakar we munnamateeka, Keya Jeremiah naye abadde abasomesa, ne tubeera n'omukulu Katumba Faizo. Katoyo n'asomesa byafaayo Omulala ye Kibuuka Moses. Uyawo Moshi. Omulala nga ye Dr. Kanabi, omulala nga ye Mukalazi Deus. Simanyi obali wano. So those are the facilitators at the School of Leadership. So ladies and gentlemen, and I also want to appreciate the guest speakers. As you know, our classes are on Tuesday and Thursday. But on Wednesday we have a guest speaker, a guest lecture, and Dr. Spire came in, and many other leaders, including the LOP, have been going there. Even the president himself has been coming every once in a while to speak to this. These are the people who have done all the time, but we also have sessions of a few people who come and lecture and go. So we had groups coming in from Gomba, from different places, Wakiso and others, to come in and just get trainings for 1 day, for 2 days, and all that. So ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the reason why we're here. I'm going to invite you, Mr. President.